Cineasts and movie fanatics are hungry for any scrap of information about Ingmar Bergman, of course. Can you describe working with him, or can you think of an example of a moment, perhaps, where you wanted to do something one way, or to give some idea on those mysterious closed sets of his, what it's like to see?
Yes, they're very closed indeed, because he wants to be very near his actors. He doesn't want to have the large crews that you have here in America. It has to be like a little family, and they're all working intensely because they have something to do. It isn't like here, so many people have special jobs and they hang around and wait and play cards and talk. No one has time to talk in his setups. There is a concentration that helps the actors very much. And he's very close to you, and he kind of reads your thoughts. To take an example, when my daughter plays the piano, I have a close-up. The mother is watching her daughter, and I had nothing to do but watch her play. So then Ingmar came up after a while. I'd done a couple of takes and said, "What are you thinking of?" So I said, "Well, I'm thinking that my poor daughter, she never really could play the piano, could she? And a little mistake there. But she's cute, there she's sitting, but oh, that was not good." And he said, "You're thinking all wrong. She is not even listening to her daughter playing. She knows that the daughter is not a pianist. She's watching the girl, and she remembers when she was a little girl and ran across the lawn, and how happy the mother was when she stretched out her arms and the little girl ran into her arms. And it gave me a completely new way of thinking." And you see, that is what a good director can do. He gives you the thought so that then you can project that.
So he gives you precise images to picture,
yes.
even.
Well, sometimes you have the same thought. I mean, he will not say anything because he sees in your face that you are thinking what he wants you to think.
Or assumes you are, in any case. I think it was Mildred Dunnock who once said about film acting that the mistake people make at the beginning is to try to act too much, and that you can simply think something and it will show in the face.
Yes, it's absolutely
which for a stage actor
true.
is hard to believe, of course.
It's very difficult, especially as I came from the stage. I had just been 6 months in London and acted. And of course, when you act on the stage, it is a question of projection. You have to reach the people up there, and it's no use believing that they can see what your eyes look like. So the whole thing is very big. So that was one of the first days of work that I had to do with Ingmar. That was to take everything down. I know that because I've been in the theater and in the movies combined all my life, so I know the difference. Yes. But you have to be reminded because the screen is so terribly sensitive.
And Bergman uses what are, it's odd, this confusion of names, Bergman and Bergman.
Yes.
Ingmar Bergman uses what are sometimes called brutal close-ups. And
yes.
For an actress like yourself who is in her 40s, some people might fear that.
Yes.
You had no fear of the screen-filling close-up where millions of people are looking into your pores?
No, I was kind of happy about it because you try naturally, being an actress. Actors don't have the same worry. But actresses, of course, like to look beautiful and young as long as possible. But it is very difficult. You can do it a little bit more on the stage where you're not so close to the audience. You can fake 10, 15 years, but on the screen you see the age. And it takes courage to take all the makeup off and really show what you are in real life.
And to not shoot it through...
He helped me to do that. I mean, he gave me courage. I said to him, "Oh my God, when my fans see me like this, I'll lose them all." And he said, "Don't worry, I'll get you new ones."
It's an answer for everything. They are, as people know, sometimes not above shooting actresses through gauze.
Yes,
that's
in the
gone.
Old days. Oh, those good old days.
Or as they said about one actress, they had to shoot her through a matzah in order to... If they'd cut right in the middle of that, I could have still shown you the goose pimples on my arms. I've never...
Well,
there's something about that in your face. The critic Stanley Kaufman and I think others have said that this perhaps is your finest work in your career? Does that
Isn't that lovely?
encourage or depress you?
No, I'm very happy that I still can do something that is better, because one thing is to start a career and you become either star overnight or you struggle up to where people say, oh, she's a fine actress, and the trouble is to stay on top. It's awfully difficult to continue and surprise people and do something that they don't know already how you're going to do it. And
Yes.
so therefore I'm very happy. I tried to surprise people in Murder on the Orient Express.
You certainly
by
did.
playing exactly the opposite of what I've ever done before, you know, a very awkward and timid and frightened little Swedish girl. I could use my Swedish accent. And I've always wanted to surprise people, either on the stage or in a movie. And I'm delighted that this time it worked.
Yes. I heard a tape that someone made, a press conference you gave, in which you told the story of how many years you pursued, in a sense, the making of a movie with Ingmar Bergman. And I think it started about 13 years ago and
Yes.
ended up with a reminder letter that you slipped into his pocket a few years back.
Yes, you see, I have seen so many of his movies, and I realized that the actors that he used were the same actors that other directors used, but they were never so good as when they were directed by him.
Yes.
So I felt that there must be something in him that he gives to actors that other directors cannot bring it out of them. After all, we are material, and it is the artist who has to do the sculpture of it. So when I met him, and that was about 13 years ago, at the Swedish embassy in Paris, he had come down with a play to give, we had those theater festivals in Paris. I met him, and we immediately had some kind of a feeling for each other and said, why don't we work together? I mean, this was the simplest thing in the world. So I said, of course, why not? And he said, I'll think of something. And then he went back to Sweden, and there was a little bit of correspondence regarding stories. There was a book he was thinking of, and then he said, no, I think I'll find something original that I'll write myself. And then he became director of the National Theatre, of our Royal Theatre, and I knew that that was such a big job to handle that he couldn't possibly do movies on the side. So I wrote him a letter saying that everybody else is terribly pleased, but I am not so pleased because I realize that our picture is now not going to be made anymore. So he wrote me an answer to that and said, don't worry, I'm only going to be director for this theatre for a certain amount of years, and then I'm going back to the movies. And my movie with you is written in fire over my forehead. It sounds better in Swedish.
Sounds pretty good this way.
But I thought the phrase was very funny, and I saved the letter, you see.
Yeah.
Then I was doing some cleaning, like we all do now and then. We'll take him by, let's get rid of all these letters and all these papers. And I started to throw out things, and I found his letter, and it was almost to the day 10 years old. And I had to go down to the Cannes Film Festival. I was president of the jury, and I knew he was coming to see, no, not to see, to show his Cries and Whispers.
Oh, yes.
And I thought that maybe in the middle of all the confusion between photographers and all the journalists and everybody that is at the Cannes Film Festival, which is it's an awful lot of people, but maybe I can get close enough to him and put a copy of that letter in his pocket. And of course, we were photographed together, and there was a big to-do about that. And I said to him, I'm putting a letter in your pocket, but don't read it until you get home. So he got the copy, and I still didn't hear from him for 2 years. So I thought, oh, he got hurt. He thought I was bitter. This is a nasty little joke. I just wrote underneath, time marches on, you know. We have to hurry up here. And after 2 years, he called me. And then he said, thank you for putting the letter in my pocket. I've been working ever since. I found the story, and it's going to be mother and daughter. And he told me over the phone, and then he sent me the script. And I had to call him back and say, how do you know all this dialogue? Because it was so much of the dialogue that is so true, and I think many mothers and daughters will recognize themselves. We've all had, to a certain extent, this kind of discussions with our daughters.
They're in for a good shaking up when they see the movie. I can guarantee them that. Well, I'm glad he didn't send that jacket to the cleaners with that letter in it.